Hi guys, how's everybody doing? We're going to do a mash today. Here's my little mash setup, or big mash setup. I have a great big old pot. There's 10 gallons of water in there. And my little setup, I have a probe off of a barbecue grill. And then I kind of got draped around the spoon so it's not on the bottom of the pan with a clothespin holding it on the edge. Keep it up there where I want it. Nothing high tech. I guess high tech a little, but yeah, this isn't opened on it. I thought the whole bag was open. Oh, it is. That's right. So we have some ground up 6-row malt. It has a number 2 grind on it. Get an idea what that's like. And we're going to use flaked corn. There's the flaked corn. The reason we're using flaked, this is flaked oats, so just oatmeal. And we're going to use flaked rye, which looks like oatmeal, but it's made out of rye. And the reason we're using flaked is for convenience. Flake grains you don't have to gelatinize, which means a lot of heating and stirring that's already been done for us. So it costs a little more because that process is already done. But my opinion is you get better quality grains when you use flake grains because you're buying them from they're made for human consumption. Feed grade grains aren't as they're not as good as they're the second grade. So we're getting top A, grade A grains when we use flake grains. So to me, it's worth the money. I'm sure that's debatable, and I've used plenty of both cracked corn, cracked rye, that kind of stuff versus flaked, but I just like the other one better. And it's easier because since it's already been flaked, all we have to do is heat our water up to, since I'm adding a lot of grain, I'm going to heat it up to like 175, and then we'll as we dump the grain in, hopefully it'll lower down right to like 155, and that should be the right temperature to put our malts in to start mashing. And so it's a pretty much instant process versus all the hours of heating it up and stirring it, gelatizing the grain, and then waiting for that to cool down. Unless you got a wort chiller, then you could do that, but I don't. So anyway, got a little surprise for you. Let me get that set up and I'll bring you back. Okay, what we're gonna do to give this mash, besides it's 3 different kinds of grain, it's corn, or 4 actually, corn, rye, oats, and barley, is we're gonna toast the corn. So just heat it up, get the corn nice and brown before we dump it off in the water. Just you put it in a skillet with some high heat on it. Keep it moving so it doesn't burn, and that's the process. Okay, we're going to measure out 2 pounds of flaked rye. And I'm just going to mix it right in with the oats. It can all go in right at the same time. So we got to do that one more time. Okay, I have 2 pounds of flaked rye, 2.71 pounds of flaked oats. I have 13.51 pounds, or no, 13 pounds. I take that back, that's 2 pounds. It is 2 lbs. Yeah, it is 2 pounds. And then this one's 13.5 of flake corn. And as you can see, the toast is happening. Looks like this one's getting done. I'm gonna go ahead and take that off before it gets burnt. So I'll set you down. a little tip if you want to try toasting some of your either cracked or flake corn is just put enough to just cover the bottom of your skillet. Keep it manageable. It's a lot easier to toast just a little bit at a time. It'll actually go faster. You'll have less of a mess and less chance of burning anything than if you try to fill the whole skillet up, toast it all at once. It's gonna overflow and it makes a mess. This way you can shake your skillet around. It doesn't take that long to toast, a little bit at a time. And that's my roasted corn pro tip. Okay, things are coming together. Corn's getting all toasted up. I have 5 pounds of barley laid out. We're getting towards the, I don't necessarily toast all this, but I'll toast a good portion of it, a little more than half for sure. Here's the rye and oats mixed together. Let's see, our water's up to 153 and everything's moving along nicely. See what I was saying about just doing it a little bit at a time? It's just a lot more manageable. And some of you might think, oh, that's a lot of work, a lot of steps. But the reason I distill is because I want to make a quality whiskey that I can't just go buy off the shelf. I want to make good stuff. Some people think home distilling or making your own is cheaper. It's actually not. If you want cheap whiskey, just go to the liquor store and buy it. You'll come out money ahead than trying to buy a still or even make one that's going to make any decent amount and produce anything. And then you need to buy quality ingredients. You have to learn the process, and if you want to get into crafting and making better and better each time, then you're probably in it for the right reasons. If you think you're just going to make some cheap whiskey, you're probably not going to be happy, and you'll end up spending money, and after a few times it'll end up getting stuck in the corner of the garage and won't get used anymore. It's just kind of my observation of people, the different types of people. I don't mind doing the extra time and effort to make a better spirit. To me, that's what's the whole point of it. I do a grain-on fermentation. My reasoning, grain-on meaning I leave the grain in the fermenter, and my reasoning is, I don't know if you can see this on the phone, but it's turning a darker color. Just kind of a light toast, just enough to change the flavor just a little bit. We're not, definitely don't want no burnt stuff in there, but just a nice roasted corn flavor. And then my observation, or the way I think, is if I steep the grains and I pull it out, yes, I can have that wash and I can make a whiskey, and then I don't have to do any filtering, or I can let it settle after it's done fermenting and go straight from the fermenter in the pot without messing around. But if I do a grain-on fermentation, I feel like I get a better flavored wash out of it, because those grains are sitting down there and the yeast are working all through that, and it's all that wash is soaking on that grain and getting more and more flavor. Because if you taste the grains after you've done a steep mash where you pull the grains out, there's a lot of flavor left in that, and you can taste that. It just tastes kind of sweet, you know. And to me, leaving those in there, I get those flavors in my whiskey. I think you're kind of wasting it. And it's really not that much extra work, because that grain all settles down to the bottom of your fermenter, and then all the wash clears up on top of that really nice. You can siphon it off and just keep your siphon hose just above the level of the grain, and put a little cheesecloth over the top of your pot, and you won't get any solids in there, and it won't burn. I've done it many times, and it's not that much effort. And I think, personally, I do several generations. I keep adding a little bit of grain, take away a little bit of grain from the fermenter, add a little bit, and then use sugar and water to get the right ABV that I want. Stir that all up and let it ferment again with just the same yeast. And I do that up to like sometimes 12 generations, and the spirit is just yummy and awesome. So I think if you just throw your grain away each time, you're kind of wasting it. Which, if you're just making a couple gallons, I guess it's not that big a deal. But I generally have 75 over 100 gallons of mash going at any given time. So any little bit I can do to save some money and keep the quality, I'm all for it. I'm kind of glad when this part's done. But what else was I going to do while I was waiting for the water to heat up, right? See, we're at 159. Let's stir it up. It'll probably jump up a degree or two. Get that little bit hotter water on the bottom mixed up with what's on the top. Yeah, see, when you stir it, it jumps up a degree or two. That's about it. That one's all roasted. See, it doesn't take that long to roast it. I've already did at least 6 or 7 pounds of this. I've done more than half, I think, of my corn on that side. Let's see, this bag's pretty light now. Probably 4 or 5 pounds in there. And I'm just gonna get back to work, and we'll bring y'all back when we start to stir the grains in. Okay, we've reached our temperature. Now we're gonna start adding our grain. And this is gonna be a slow process, because you can end up with, I've heard them called dough balls, clumps, several different names. What happens is the water will kind of surround some of it and make it get wet, but then the inside of it will stay dry. And once you get those in there, you have to like smush them up against the side, because then your enzymes can't work on that and convert the grains. It just stays dry, and it can stay dry all the way up into your fermenter. So the best way to avoid that is put a little in, slowly, a little bit at a time, and then stir it. And if you've, believe me, if you've ever had to deal with that, those clumps, and getting a shitload of them in there and having to break it all up, you will never want to do it again, and you won't mind taking the time to do it this way. But it's kind of boring to watch and takes a while, so I'll come back when I get things all done with. Okay, we're getting the last of the corn in there, and as you can see, there's not a bunch of got crap off the handle, bunch of yucky dough balls. Here goes the very last little bit of corn going in. Probably took me 7-10 minutes maybe. Put 13 pounds of corn in just a little bit at a time. This is a little more of an issue with when you use flake grains, especially the corn, because there's some pretty fine powder in there versus the cracked. It has less tendency to get those dough balls. But as you can see, everything's all nice and saturated. We are getting the starches out of there, And now I'm going to put in some, oh, get over here. We got the rye and the oats. We're going to mix them in. Same process. Just slowly drop them in. And this recipe, like I said, it's 13.5 pounds of corn, 2 pounds of rye, and 2.7 of oats, 5 of barley. Why? That's just what I feel like making this time. I don't use other people's recipes. I try to develop my own now. So I just feel like this will be a good amount of everything. Mostly corn, because corn has the most starch in it. So that's going to give me the majority of my sugars to ferment. In the 6-row barley, because I like the flavor of 6-row barley. And then the rye to give it a little bit of spicy rye goodiness. And the oats just add a little complexity. It gives it a little mouthfeel, and people will drink it and they'll be like, that's really good, it's a good rye whiskey, but there's something else in there. I can't quite put a taste on it. And they'll search around and they never will quite figure it out until I tell them. So it definitely has its own characteristic. It's a cheap kind of, not very expensive. You just go get Quaker oats from your grocery store, the uncooked. Not the instant kind, just the regular kind. Those are Quaker oats. Although I suppose you could probably use instant as well. I don't know what it would hurt. Stir that up a little bit. And then I'm gonna pull a little bit out before we stick the barley in and do the mash. And then after the mash is done, we'll do an iodine test. And we can show you the conversion. We'll also do a gravity reading with the hydrometer. Just seems silly not to. Be nice to know when it's done fermenting and what we can expect. Sorry about that. Okay, we are stirring in the last of the malted barley. I should have showed you before I started how thick it was. Very porridge-like. And we're just going to stir that in. We're at 153 degrees. And I'm going to cover it up with a towel, and then we just wait an hour and a half. Okay, now we wait. We are at 153 degrees. And it's a good time to do dishes and get the kitchen all cleaned up. So I don't have to do that later. Okay, while we're waiting for the mash to cool, it still says 153 degrees. It's been a while. Let's turn it on and off, see if it makes any difference. Nope, still says 153 degrees. But I do have some. I pulled some out. I put some powdered enzymes in it, both alpha and beta. so I can have some to hydrate my, or not hydrate, to do my yeast starter with. What's our temperature on this? We are at 127, so I need to cool some of that down. Oops, I'm fogging everything up. I need to cool some of that down so I can put some in the container and start stirring it with the yeast. Okay, our little side conversion that we dipped some off the top and put some, it's a little too close there, huh? There we go. Put some powdered enzymes in. We got like a 1.03 or 2% ABV, and I stuck that in with the hydrated yeast, so we got a nice nice low ABV wash for the yeast to get acclimated to what they're going to be in. I'm not going to put any Go Firm or anything like that in this because we're using grain, and it's got a lot of the things that the yeast like anyway. So with that, I will come back a little later when we get ready to check the big mash that we did. Okay, we've been on for like at least an hour and a half, and you can see that it definitely thinned down quite a bit. Let's pull a little off the top and do an iodine test. Let's see how much we've converted. We can't really see how much, we can just see if we've made a conversion. So without any sugars in there, just starches, it'll stay reddish color, pinkish color, kind of like the color of the iodine, and then it'll turn black if we've made a conversion. Now that on top there is not showing much of a conversion. It's not real black. So let's stir it up and then see what happens. Okay, I stirred it up some, and see if the stuff down below was converted any better than just that stuff floating on top. Yeah, see the difference? See, it's just turning black immediately. That's cool. You got to see the difference in some that's not converted versus some that is. So that means that we've actually made a conversion of starches into sugars. See, it just keeps turning black. And see, there's that stuff floating on top that we took off, and it wasn't converted very well. Big difference. So we know we did something, and after I stirred it up, we're down to 148. So I need to just let it cool off a bunch, and the enzymes in this will keep converting down to about 140. So I'm just going to let it sit open and let them do their thing while it cools. Okay, now I'm emptying some back set out of the still. This was just a corn mash, straight corn mash. I'm going to use the back set to help the sour, make it a sour mash on the next mash that I just did on the stove that we've been watching. So I'll pour 2 gallons of this into the fermenter over there, number 1, and that will be that. Okay, can't really read that. There we go. We're going to throw in a tablespoon of glucosamylase, which is a beta enzyme. So once amylase enzymes have broken or have converted the starches into, through saccharification, converted them into long grain or long chain starches. See, there's the dough balls I was talking about. My enzyme turned into it. So you put it in at 140 degrees. And then you get it to mix in. So I gotta smoosh it all up against the wall to do that. Get it all broken up and dissolved inside the mash. And that will make the long chain starches into short chain starches, which is the yeast like better. It's easier, less work for the yeast to break it down. So I'm going to mix this in and let it do its part, and then we should be ready to pitch yeast as soon as it cools down. Okay, here's our wash, and we have a 1.0 for like 1 or 2, which would give us a 5%, maybe 6% ABV, which ain't too bad really. And we're going to bump that up with probably about 8 pounds of sugar in 12 gallons of wash. That would give us right around a 12% ABV. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and there's a 4-grain mash. Okay, finished stirring the sugar in. It's in the fermenter now. We are at a 1.082, maybe a 3, for a ABV of let's see if it'll focus in. It's not liking the focus tonight. We have an ABV of 10-11%, so I can live with that. Okay, just want to show a little update before we started or finished this video off. Let's see, on my little whiteboard, batch 1, I started it Sunday, so 2.7, and it had a starting gravity of 1.082, and it's a corn rye oat mix. And it's Thursday now, and if you couldn't tell, I was getting kind of tired on the video. Let's see, there's what it looks like now. It's been fermenting for a few days. I forgot to show you when I pitched the yeast. We had a nice starter going. I let it stir on the stir plate for a few hours, and I started this at like 4 in the afternoon, and I got done about 1 in the morning. And see all that stuff floating up there? When this is done fermenting, this will be nice and clear on top, and all that stuff will be laying down at the bottom. We'll do a little bit of a degas. It's not necessary, but I just wanted to show you it's fermenting along nicely. But I had to get up and drive to Long Beach for work Monday morning, so I had to leave here and be on the road by 4 o'clock, so I got up about 3. So I only got a couple hours sleep, so I was pretty tired. But I dumped the yeast right before I left for work that morning. And stirred it in and jetted it out. And now I just got home yesterday evening, and it's going to be hard to take a real accurate, good reading, but just give you an idea. Let's see, we started at so we're at 132. We started at 1.082, and then we're at 1.032. So we've fermented 50 points out already. So this one ain't got a whole lot longer to go. So sometime next week, let me zoom you back out. There's a, here, let's do a macro of how close can we get? There's a macro of fermentation. That's what it looks like up close. It's all the CO2 bubbles and stuff. But just wanted to show you that. And there's our 4-grain fermentation mix, or 4-grain mash mix. It's a sour mash because I put back set in there, and it should make some really yummy whiskey. And so I'm gonna sign this off now, the video off now. It's a long video. Y'all make it to the end. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and lots of love. Bye.